Hello friends, today we will discuss one of the types of approaches of teaching English, that is structural approach. Today we will discuss in detail the structural approach. Teaching English by helping the students to learn certain structure of English is called structural approach. The objective of this structural approach is to increase students' command over English and to enable them to learn the language more effectively. According to Brevington, the definition of structural approach is it is a scientific study of fundamental structures of the English language, their analysis and logical arrangement. So we have to analyze that structural approach is basically a scientific study which is based on the fundamental structures of the English language, the analysis of the structures and also the logical arrangement of the structures. So the structural approach is the outcome of researches made in the field of teaching English as a foreign language. The American structural linguistic supported this method. It is also known as oral approach or oral linguistic approach. The oral means teaching a language by giving opportunities to the students to hear and speak the language. The students enabled the learner to use the language for expression of his reaction in a given situation. Example, stating facts, answering questions, responding, etc. Thus, structural approach is an approach and not a method. In a method, the emphasis is on how to teach, and in an approach, the emphasis is on what to teach. What to teach means the approach lays a stress on the content and not on the procedure. Any method can be used for this content. Structures. Let us discuss about the structures. The different arrangement or patterns of words are called structures. Structures may be complete pattern or they may be form part of a large pattern. Structures are the most important tool of a language. The basic tool of English are sound, word and structure. These two help in developing the fourfold ability. First, ability to understand the language. Second, ability to speak the language. Third, ability to read the language. And fourth, ability to write the language. 100 sentences of English have about 600 structural words. It is the arrangement of words in a certain order that is more important than the word themselves. For example, the different arrangement patterns convey different meanings. As, for example, Aditya is there. Second example, is Aditya there? Third example, there Aditya is. Fourth example, there is Aditya. Structures should not be confused with sentences. While structures do not need any grammatical background, sentences are grammatical order of words. Structures also help in communication through, though they do not follow any grammar rules. For example, thank you, well done, sorry. Approach involves selection and gradation of the material to be taught. For example, I am going. Another example, I am going to school. Yet another example, I am going to school by car. Now, let us discuss the principles of structural approach. Importance of child's activity, importance of speech, importance of language habit formation, mastery of structures, meaning situation, use of textbook, method and situation of teaching. Kinds of structure. There are 4 kinds of structures. First is sentence pattern, second is phrase pattern, third is formulas, and fourth is idiomatic structures. Let us discuss the sentence pattern. A sentence pattern is a model for a sentence. Example, he went to school. Another example, open the door. Another example, sit down. Now let us discuss the phrase pattern. Phrase pattern is a group of words which has meaning even without being a sentence. Example, on the table. For 6 years, the young man. Formulas. Group of words which are used regularly on certain occasions are called formulas. Example, good evening, thank you, excuse me. Idiomatic structures. Group of words that must be learnt as a whole because it is not always possible to understand the meaning from separate word is known as idiom structures. Example, in spite of, in order to, live from hand to mouth. Now let us discuss the characteristics of structure. The structure is based on the word order. Every structure embodies an important part of grammar. The 275 structures form the core of essential English. The structures are graded in such a way that a structure follows the previous one naturally. For example, I saw her. Another example, I saw her sleeping. Content and content words. Now, let us discuss the content and content words. Selection on the basis of its usefulness, simplicity, teachability. For example, this is an apple. An apple is a fruit. I like to eat an apple. Here the content word is apple. Creating situation to teach structures. Gesture and action. Holding a pen, a teacher can say, this is a pen, we can write with it. Pictures. The teacher can teach grammatical structures such as article, noun, verb, tenses with help of charts and pictures. Drawing on the blackboard. The teacher can draw a boat and a river on the blackboard and can say the boat is sailing in the river. So, creating situation to teach the structures, we can take help of gestures and action, pictures, drawing on the blackboard. Now, let us discuss the aims of structural approach. To lay the foundation of English through drill and repetition of about 275 graded structures, to enable the children to attain mastery over an essential vocabulary of about 3000 root words, to correlate the teaching of grammar and composition with reading lessons, to teach the 4 fundamental skills, naming understanding, speaking, reading and writing, to lay proper emphasis on the oral approach. Now, at last, let us discuss some merits and demerits of structural approach. Merits. It facilitates the learning of English by imparting the knowledge of its structure. This approach emphasizes on speech, so students speak English with correct pronunciation. Due to emphasis on oral drills, learning becomes permanent. It creates interest and motivation. Students have mastery over 275 structures and 300 words, useful in teaching of prose and poetry. It systematizes the work of syllabus and teachers. It promotes the use of everyday English. Maximum students can be taught by this approach. Now let us discuss some of the demerits of this approach. It is more suitable for lower classes. It is not suitable for Indian conditions where the class is overcrowded. It emphasizes on oral drill and makes teaching mechanical. It emphasizes on material aids, so teacher-centered education is there and hence ignores child-centered education. It is a time-consuming approach, so difficult to complete the lengthy syllabus. Now, we can conclude that the special virtues of the structural approach lies in the fact that at every stage the objectives of teaching and learning are very clearly defined and are attainable. That's all.